Alright, so I just want to get on and talk a little bit about the day's headlines, events, whatnot. I've been working with more of an outline because there's things whenever I'm walking around, I always think of things I want to talk about, and then when I'm doing it, I might get caught up in something completely different, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself or what, but first things first. We need to talk about ending the societal stigmata against marijuana. Today's case in point being Sha'Carri Richardson, who is in the Olympics and had to withdraw from the 100-meter dash because of testing positive for marijuana. And as far as I could tell, she was definitely poised to be one of the game's breakout stars. She's like she's like one of the world's, maybe she probably is the world's fastest woman at this point. I'm not exactly sure, but she was one of, every Olympics, there's like a few Olympians that they kind of appear in the media more than others. Michael Phelps. So this was the example people were using. Michael Phelps is kind of famous for smoking just shitloads of weed, right? Like, he's talked about it. And it's a double standard. How many gold medals does this fucking guy have? More than anybody ever. And yet they're going to keep her. So to me, this is indicative not only of just societal stigma against weed, but also, of course, using it to criminalize blackness, more or less. Nonviolent drug offenders. This is something I've mentioned on the show before, and it's getting more traction just about, like, we need to let these people out of prison. People went to prison, these 3 strikes and you're out rules and shit. You can go to prison for life for selling weed. It's like, well, now because it's legal, right? So it's not even against the law anymore. But by and large, these laws are used to just put black people away, not white people. And once again, I mean, there's your double standard. Michael Phelps and Sha'Carri Richardson. She doesn't even get to compete. She's outlawed from the games. And it's just like, it's one of these things where we just have kind of a disjointed. We're coming out of the era where, like, weed was like, the Republicans were like, one of their main things was being against it, and they really, it was sort of a vocalized consensus crux in a way that just like, we're against this. We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. And culturally, we've just, I mean, a lot of people on the right, let's say, identify as libertarians or whatever. They don't give a fuck if you smoke weed. It's become more accepted. There is less of a stigma against it. But I mean, just from my own personal experience, right? This is what I want to Andy Rooney about. This is the Andy Rooney every day, just gripe. Well, my own personal experience is a just like outrageously habitual. I don't know. I guess over the past 7 years, it's become kind of a lifestyle for me, and it's medicinal. I don't know if my life would have been better or worse, let's say, if I would have, let's say I would have been sober for the past 7 years. Would things have gone down the same way? What would have happened instead? But, for a society where, and sports in particular, the whole fucking thing is about selling beer. Our society is disgustingly alcoholic, and it's all just about, it's all sports, NFL. It's just a big beer commercial, basically, at this point. Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser. Americans are really, really, really encouraged to just, like, guzzle fucking booze and get fucked up, and it's horrible for you. It kills your body. It kills your liver. It destroys, it just destroys families, destroys neighborhoods, destroys homes, destroys lives. I don't know. I mean, that's not to say there aren't positives that come from booze. Like, it does help people get down and, like, connect, maybe. It's the one way we have to escape our paralyzing self-consciousness, which is engineered in us by our society, which wants us to remain ineffective and not confident at all. So booze is the answer. Booze is the only way to, brutalize and bludgeon yourself out of your uptight, awkward, nervous. You can you start to drip. You're not as dripless when you're drunk. You start to be able to, like, relax and party, have a good time. So this is one way people are able to socialize. Whereas during the daylight hours, the sober hours, not as easy. People are not as relaxed, not as conversant, maybe. Not as forthcoming with... So, anyway, not to be pro-booze. And there have been, like, prohibition. There was prohibition in this country. It's hard to believe, actually. Because it's such a... In fact, a lot of these communities that, as far as I've seen, one of the first thing that goes in when they were settling this country, like in Columbus, the brewery district in fucking German Village and shit, that was one of the first things. Here, it's the same thing. I guess over on 10th Avenue and a lot of this shit, there were breweries over here. Brooklyn, there's tons of breweries because, like, it's one of the first things the fucking people build. I think alcohol was the way they dealt with a lot of, like, the traumas and problems like, modern sanitation, modern medicine, alcohol. I think people just kind of stayed drunk basically all the time. It sanitizes. Alcohol does sanitize. So you can drink alcohol kind of, and it's not necessarily going to be poison like maybe your water. It's not going to have whatever dysentery or cholera or whatever the fuck necessarily. Plus, I think they were just in so much pain. So breweries are like one of the first things any of these places built. You gotta make beer and get fucked up. Like, how else do you bear just, like, work a day, labor, chore, body pain, existence, awkwardness, social anxiety? It's a lubricant, right? But it's devastating. It has devastating effects in a lot of ways. And health-wise, and for your body, that weed doesn't have. Weed is not going to kill your fucking liver. You're not going to gain a bunch, well, not necessarily. You're not going to, gain a bunch of weight. There's no hangovers. You feel great. I've talked about it, obviously. So anyway, my own personal experience, it's hard. I know... And obviously this is kind of a famous side effect of weed, but, like, I'm constantly worried that I'm, like, too high and I'm being weird. And I'm constantly having weird interactions as a result of that. It makes certain things, like going into, like, a food... like I love going to Punjabi Deli around the corner to get food. They're delicious food. And when I go in there high, it just gets weird. Because I'm like... I don't know, you're just in that kind of, like, underwater, like, slow motion, like, hypersensitive, over-worrying, overthinking. Are they going to know I'm high? Are they going to... Work situation. Not that I never really went to work high, to be honest. That's just something I wouldn't do. But being a pothead and having pothead lifestyle... is something that, they can do drug tests. They can say you're not allowed to do this if you're going to work here. Like, it's not against the law anymore. So that's basically what happened with Sha'Carri Richardson, right? It's not against the law, probably. In Colorado, that's where all the Olympic training shit is, right? The Mile High Village and stuff. Legal. They're probably doing shrooms and shit. I don't agree. Everybody's making this joke about like, hey, if you can smoke weed and run 100 meters, they should give you 2 medals because smoking weed makes you super tired and lazy. It's like, I don't agree. I think in certain instances I could definitely run way faster. Well, I'm not saying it's performance enhancing. I don't think it's an advantage. But the jokes about weed making you lazy are lazy jokes. They're cliches. That's like the joke Jay Leno would make if Jay Leno were alive today. Jay Leno were still with us. R.I.P. Jay Leno. He got in that horrible auto thing with all his cars. Terrible. All that pile up with all those vintage cars. Damn, what a way to go. Conan recently left. My friend was talking about, I don't know if Eamon watches anymore. Nobody does, but I still do it. It's just a good exercise. I think these will appreciate and value. Conan wears these horrible like jean jackets, I guess. He just seemed like he was over the talk show. Because to be honest, I mean, he started out doing other shit. He started out writing sketch comedy and like writing for The Simpsons and shit. The fact that he's been locked in as a talk show host for, he's done it as long as Carson did it. How weird is that? He's been doing it almost. He's been doing it, since 94? So almost 30 years. Maybe not quite as long, but it's hard to believe, right? Carson, it seemed like this untouchable, like 30 years. Wow. Now it's like fucking, Jay Leno, how long did he do it? At least 20 years. But I don't think Conan should feel bad. He got to host The Tonight Show. He got to do it. Like, I mean, a lot of people only hosted The Tonight Show for like a year or whatever. Like, Steve Allen didn't do it that long. Jack Parr didn't really do it that long. Like, did he even make it a year? Was it seriously like 8 days or something? I don't remember. But in any case, I wish I could feel more comfortable with it because it doesn't make me feel like a dysfunctional person. It doesn't feel the same as if, like, let's say, for instance, I got up and started drinking first thing in the morning. Like, I feel like getting up and smoking a joint, it's not equivalent. There are certain things I think you gain, and I think there's certain things you lose with both. When you're sober, you lose certain things, you gain certain things. When you're high, you gain certain things, you lose certain things. When you're high, it can help activate you. It can help get you to think of ideas that you wouldn't have had otherwise. It can kind of free up, brain release, kind of repress things, get a new angle on things. It can, I mean, I don't really get the munchies personally. I mean, it does change my appetite. I would say, if anything, weed has been more or less an appetite suppressant. A lot of times when I wake up, I'll be hungry or something, and then if I smoke, I'll forget that I'm hungry. As long as I keep smoking, I'll feel like fine. Whereas it's like I actually need to eat something. So I don't really get munchies per se, personally. I mean, everybody's fucking snacky and a fat ass now. Like, come on, like, I don't think for certain people, it affects different people different ways, right? But that's another stigma, right? It's like weed makes me, it's too weird. Like, I get too paranoid. It's like, are you really, or is that something that like society, man? Is that something that society, man, is fucking society, man? When you've really started smoking weed, you get into that voice. That, man, fucking society, man. That's like when you really smoked so much weed, your mouth like, man, it's like from holding it in, man. It's fucking... You're smoking like... fucking society, man. They don't want you to know this, dude. But, this is, like with acid or anything. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be afraid of this. It's gonna distort. I don't like it. It makes me nervous. My heart palpitates. I think that first of all, it passes. Whatever the effect is going to go away. So, if you've, like, this is something Steve Martin, right? In his book, he talks about he smoked weed and he got super bad heart palpitations. So he's quit. He never smoked weed again or something. He tried it in the 60s. He got heart palpitations and he never did it again. Which, I don't know, is kind of weird because he's one of those people that you might be like, wow, this guy, I wouldn't think this, but like, in high school, like, people thought I had like pothead funny personality or something, even though I didn't smoke weed at all in high school. People were always trying to get me to smoke. Oh, Proctor, you'd be hilarious. We got to get Proctor high. And I don't know. It didn't really appeal to me. My own personal stigma was, of course, my dad smoked weed as a way of life. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, I would like to get to a point probably in my own life where I have a little more balance, where I have certain waking hours where I'm sober and I'm like taking care of kind of pragmatic worldly business. And then, let's say, if I could even get to like the point where I don't smoke to 3 p.m., that would be kind of a way to balance it more. I don't know. I mean, other than the stigma, or like my own paranoia about the stigma, I don't necessarily feel like it does hinder I mean, I definitely probably would have made a lot of decisions differently if I wasn't like kind of it does make you like a little reckless or a little emotional with things in a way. You do think there's more danger. Maybe, you envision scenarios where it's like, oh my God. Like with this thing for the past couple of days, I felt kind of sick, but kind of not. I literally feel like I'm about like 5% sick or something, which is weird. I've never had this before, so I don't know what it is. But of course, when you're high, you start to think, oh my God, am I short of breath? Whereas when you're sober, you can kind of just go about your business and you're not quite as like overthinking it, overly sensitive. But there's a use for that. For artistic things, it can be useful to just kind of relax and, I don't know, ingest sensory kind of things, maybe in a more kind of tangible, palpable way. Colors, sounds, emotions between people. I mean, there is some sense, right, that it's like artificial, it's fake, it's not real. If you're high, the laugh doesn't count. And with dating stuff, right, especially culturally in New York, maybe in California it's different, maybe in certain places it's different, where weed is a little bit more part of the culture, but New York's not. The weed culture here, right, is like delivery. It's like the high maintenance. There's something kind of Uberish about it and private. It's not like everybody's free and just like getting weird. Everybody's still cool and kind of maintaining their chic kind of self-control. But there's definitely people that smoke weed here, a lot. But it's not. New York is such a business and such a punctual and orderly police state that I don't know. I've always felt, I mean, it's especially weird recently with now, I mean, it's comforting and it's a relief, frankly. It used to be, when I would smoke on the street, like, let's say in the East Village, or I would feel slightly nervous about it. I mean, Eric in Holy Smokes, he got put in jail for like a few hours in the East Village. He was smoking on 14th Street somewhere by Otto's Shrunken Head, and fucking the cops. This was like in 2000, I don't know, 14 or something, 15. So I was always a little bit not just like, oh, I'm smoking fucking walking down Avenue A or something, huge joints. It's like I would always kind of like go to a place, make sure there was nobody really around. And now it's like, I mean, even before it got legal, people were smoking kind of a lot on the street. But now that it's legal, I mean, it's just like you see people smoking huge joints just regularly. I mean, that might also be because we're still in kind of like quarantine-ish mode. There's still people with like free time and like, I don't know, unemployment money and stimulus money to be smoking fat-ass joints like in the middle of the day and just on the street on 9th Avenue or whatever. But I hope that doesn't stop. I mean, I hope that we don't return to normal ever, and weed can be a part of that. I mean, like, not to be too personal about it, like, but somebody I know, let's say, has always been kind of paranoid about. They don't like smoking it because it makes them paranoid and it just makes them nervous and shit. But they've started to do it more, and I think they're starting to appreciate it. I think they're starting to let go of that. You know, I know, like, that time that I smoked when I first got to New York in 2009, February 2009, my friend Nico smoked me up with this Gordon Bombay, the PCP weed. It was laced. And, of course, I freaked out because everything I knew about it from DARE program or whatever, I'm going to jump out the window. If somebody would have just told me, like, hey, man, relax, you'll be fine. It goes away after a few hours. You're going to be totally fine. You know, it's not chemically going to hurt you or anything. But that was not the education. I mean, we had DARE program a few times. We had it in 5th grade. We had it in high school. Officer Small came in. We had to do the beer goggles and shit. Dare to keep the kids off drugs. And so now they want to corporatize it. Now they want to make it a business. They are making it a business. Our society has moved in that, you know, I would say socially, our society has moved left. That's how they trick us into moving further to the right with financial warlord policies. Oh, everything's super liberal. Look, there's fucking intergender bathrooms and weed's legal. Everything's super liberal. Look, Chase Bank is gay. They've got rainbows. Meanwhile, $4 trillion wealth transfer upward during the pandemic. So, I don't know. Or, for instance, my relationship with weed and performance. Well, like KGB, right? Before that, I smoked a joint out front, and that was probably a good amount. But then I was like thinking, I need to be really, I don't know. I just thought I need to be really high, so I smoked another half, and that kind of put me maybe a little too far. I think I have a distrust of high because of the stigma. Because of society saying, oh, weed is like, it's not a real, food tastes better, but it doesn't actually taste better. It's just you're high. Things aren't actually funnier. You're just staring at something and, dude, I was really high. I don't even know why I was laughing at this. I don't know. I'm not saying that it doesn't do that, but I think it it can add something. It's not the only way to perform, but it definitely, I don't know. I guess it's just easier. It feels good. At this point, I don't know. Do I even? A lot of times when I wake up and I'm sober, I feel great, and it's after I start smoking that I start to get like paranoid and nervous and nauseous or whatever again. So it does do bad things to your nervous system. That's something David Lynch said. It's terrible for your nervous system. I think there's some truth to that, but I also think, like, you look at older potheads, a lot of them are like super young looking. So it's relaxing, I think, in a certain way. I wish more people did it. I wish it wasn't stigmatized. I wish, for instance, that I could, with all of the kind of understanding and just like accepting of people's circumstances, I wish I could communicate like, hey, I smoke weed regularly. It helps me. I don't know. I guess I'm an addict at this point. This is something I've been thinking about. It's just like, it's just kind of habitual. And like, do I need this? Is it doing more harm than good at this point? Am I just so attenuated to it that it's become like my default state of consciousness? And in fact, it's more unusual for me to be sober. I mean, I remember a few years ago, when I would first start going out and performing and stuff, weed helped me get over stage fright, I guess. That was the idea. And fear. But I remember one time going out and performing, and I was sober, I got caught, almost every time I perform. In fact, basically every time I ever perform, I'm high. And usually, like probably too high. I'm high to the point that I'm like kind of like passing out and drowsy and shit. I mean, you watch my show, you see me smoking weed constantly. But the times that I performed sober, I did notice like, whoa, there's like a clarity. You're actually sharper. I don't know. It was a fear thing. And it was like not a crutch. Not to use, that's kind of an un-PC metaphor. It's a crutch. It was just I don't know. My biggest fear, I guess, was getting up on stage and being sober and having the gig be like boring and dry. But honestly, a lot of shows we played, the audience just they were driven out by our performance, by my performance, because I was too high or something. Well, not necessarily too high, because there's not necessarily such a thing. It's more just about like, are you thinking positively or are you thinking negatively about it? Are you thinking, oh my God, I'm failing, this sucks, it sounds like shit, this is not a real song, I hope these people don't leave, whatever the fuck, fear. This is what I do. I put my mouth in the microphone, I close my eyes, I hope the audience doesn't leave. And yet here I am with no audience. And I don't know. I guess it became more just about like my own personal experience. Whatever the audience did felt like something I was kind of afraid to engage with. I still can't really like talk directly to the audience. I still kind of like am talking around them or over. I'm just like they can like, I'm just kind of talking and they can listen, but I'm not necessarily trying to like wait for them, which I don't know. This is something maybe I want to I'm beginning to do that. I'm beginning to relax a little bit and get better at it, I think. There's less fear as I go on doing it. I mean, there's still fear. I mean, the KGB thing, I was nervous, definitely. But and honestly, the weed kind of makes it more so. In the same way that weed makes you maybe feel more emotions, laugh harder, things taste better, it's like it also makes you more nervous, I think. It makes you more afraid. Your body's shaking and your stomach's, really tight and but that could just be the vibe all around you. As a context to smoke weed, New York is kind of it's a colder, grimmer, more stone. The color palette's different here. California is sunny, it's warm, nature is green and incredible, and it's kind of a weed surfing and just good vibes. New York, I don't know if New York is really good vibes. New York is more like reality staring you in the face, or that was the cliche, kind of the intensity of it. So smoking weed, it's almost like an investigative tool for me. It can help you excavate more truly the feeling or the intention, or you can see more abstract. You can decode that stuff. I think maybe you have epiphanies in a more kind of like it's like a lemon being squeezed in a commercial. I think this will happen. I think gradually. I mean, I do see more or less the places I've seen it be decriminalized. Well, out west it's different, but Illinois, for instance, I haven't been to Pennsylvania yet, but it seems like a very police state almost. It's like a pharmacy. Speaking of which, CVS, Rite Aid, Duane Reade, they're all drug dealers. That's what they do. That's why they pop up everywhere. New York City, basically all it is, any new fucking thing, it's always a drugstore. It's always Rite Aid, CVS. There's literally a Rite Aid on 9th Avenue and 22nd Street and 8th Avenue and 20th Street. So I can find a Rite Aid a block in either direction. I mean, that's great for me. And I don't think necessarily in New York they're like opioid dealers, but that's essentially what they are across the country. They're part of this opioid crisis. That there where people get the subscriptions filled. They're drug dealers. They're dispensaries. There's no stigma against that shit. That's like medicine. This codeine or whatever the fuck it is. Methamphetamines. Nazi Superman drug. That's medicine. Weed is a drug. It's a legal narcotic. You're a criminal. We're going to tax the fuck out of it. You're a hippie. You're gross. I don't agree with the demonization of hippies. The punks kind of had this anti-hippie thing that stuck, because that's like the punks are from the Bay Area too, weirdly enough. The hippies are kind of whatever, San Francisco. The punks are East Bay, to generalize, vibe-wise. But I don't agree. I think the hippies are not the bad guy. The hippies are on our side. I mean, we may not agree with their, smelly, self-righteous kind of... I mean, to be honest, the hippies out there can be, like, obnoxiously looking down their nose at you and just correct about everything. And it's like, it's kind of annoying. But I think hippies, it should be more about relaxation, loafing, slovenliness. Hey, smile, it's free. But there's a lot of anti-hippie, so we can't, we're splintered on the left. The punks and the hippies hate each other. We need to be intersectional with the hippies and the straight edge kids. I think as people start to smoke, it's just a way of like codifying and institutionalizing the drug dealing. It's still going to be the same price, basically, from what I've seen. More or less, it's going to be the same price, and there, I don't know, some gangster corporations will take all the money. Maybe some people will get rich starting weed farms or something. But ideally, the healing properties of it, the medicinal qualities of it, the herbal qualities of it, the creative, imaginative, peacemaking kind of qualities of it, the consciousness expanding qualities of it will gradually make their way. And I think they are. Even people I know who are just like extremely dumbass right-wing nutcases, they do shrooms and shit while they're hunting, in their camo and shit. Maybe not while they're hunting, but like there's not the same stigma. I wonder about that because so much of the right wing seemed fueled. And this is something I sort of talked about the other day about anti-hippie kind of reaction, the silent majority, because the hippies were so visible and kind of like obnoxious about free love and acid and being naked and Woodstock and communes and just smelly granola, all the cliches, right? All the obnoxious, gnarly cliches. And so there was a lot of that was very hyped in the media. The whole rock and roll thing was just like in your face about it. And it attained like a critical mass. And so there was a lot of backlash from squares. Well, but just look, I don't know why it's not as much of a sentiment. I mean, maybe that's a religious thing, or like the moral base of the right was maybe more actually moral or something, or moral. Whereas now it's like that's not really an issue. Like they can perfectly well believe in Jesus and yet be completely not trying to pretend to be, we're not going to smoke weed because that's the devil's weed. That's wacky tobacco or whatever. I still feel that. Like, that's kind of my point from the other day was, like, I still feel there's an undercurrent of this same sentiment, but they've changed their tactic. It's not necessarily that they're anti-weed. It's more like they're I don't know, because Trump does kind of like prey upon a lot of the rock and roll kind of like stage fireworks and attitude and shooting from the hip and mouthing off and saying, being a rebel. But, I mean, they're still fucking squares. Like, they're still just uptight, white fucking, and they're sick. I mean, Trump's kids and shit, like, they're clearly anti-hippies. And in fact, probably, like most things in their life, they're motivated to just ruin things for other people. They want to shoot endangered animals and shit. So I think they get a kick out of, like, Kushner, right? Buying the rent-controlled apartments, kicking people out of their rent-controlled apartments, so they can sell them to fucking yuppies, market them to yuppies. These are the ways they're getting back at the hippies, using hipsters as sort of a gentrifying wedge to flip these neighborhoods, make them desirable, give them stories. You know, that's something that just like confronts me every fucking day. New York, how they use the brand at the expense of the substance. Like that Aesop soap store with the fucking Paris reviews in the ceiling. Used for like a display, completely ruining the magazine. It's like they're destroying just for like an advertisement. For the advertisement of the substance, they're destroying the substance. Like, that's what New York is. New York has become an advertisement. Art, famous Warhol, MoMA, fucking what, you name it. So that's glamorous. We want to travel there. It's safe. And so the art is destroyed. The artists can't afford to live here. But it's an advertisement. It's the appearance of that. Oh yeah, it's New York. It's all about art and it's all about culture and well, it's just a bunch of people coming here to be tourists, to Airbnb, to experience art or culture. Meaning what? I don't know. Going to the Met or going to Broadway or going to so I don't know. I think gradually over time and it already has. I mean, remember Bill Clinton in 1992? There was like a big controversy. Did you inhale? I didn't inhale. It's like, wow. That's where the Republican Party was at. They were trying to nail him on this. Oh, this guy smoked weed. He can't be the fucking president. He's got the nuclear codes. He smoked weed once in 1968. He might go schizo and like blow up. It's like, I mean, it has been 30 years. I think it's only a good thing if more people start smoking, if it becomes legal, because it will start to work its way into the culture more. And I do think it makes things richer. I do think it, like, your average person, it will turn them on in a certain way. I mean, alcohol does it in a certain way, but alcohol is a stupefying depressant. Weed is a vivifying, insightful stimulant, excitement. I mean, if you're a fucking athlete, I would say it should not be on the list of banned substances. In fact, it's probably a useful thing. Maybe not all the time. I don't know. Ask fucking Michael Phelps. I don't think it helped him, or I mean, it helped him, but it's not like fucking doing whatever Lance Armstrong was doing. You know, where they're like pumping shit into your blood and shit. It's not like that. It's not HGH where it's like going to make your fucking skull expand in size and give you like muscle mass. I mean, and it's also just not harmful. I think there's some sense that those drugs are outlawed because they're like chemically dangerous. Weed, not really. So I don't know. I think they should just let them all do it. I think it's up to the individual athletes, obviously. Hey, fucking Shaun White. Did that guy not smoke weed? I mean, snowboarding, fucking, you got snowboarding in the fucking Olympics. Like, how have they never? I mean, I'm sure they had to have busted somebody for weed, like probably all the time. But I would probably advise the athletes, maybe, like, it could be like a relaxing, like, healing thing. Maybe like with some CBD or something. Is that illegal? I'm not sure. Do they test them for that? It could be like a relaxing healing thing if uh, they use it as such. I don't know. It's up to them. I don't think it's. I'm not exactly sure. My impression is that a large percentage of people, in fact, the majority of people in our society and around us every day, are drug addicts or one kind of another. I mean, even coffee, right? Coffee is a huge stimulant. I don't know if we could count that, but like, I don't. I think some percentage, some high percentage of people just on the street are on something. Some kind of Xanax, maybe, or Prozac, or how many people a day do you think get up and drink in the morning? Like, I mean, it's, I don't know, probably hard to say no. Weed, for me, I guess there's some element that it's like you've kind of crossed into some other kind of like way of life. Your values are way different. It's like a dropout thing. I mean, not for everybody, but like, okay, for instance, like dating profiles. I think most of what I see in New York, you have one of two things. You have girls who are like more professional types, let's generalize, financial people, or traveler yoga, like really well put together professional women, and they're just like, they drink. Fucking Hinge, it's got a wine glass, yes, sometimes no. It's got a cigarette, yes, sometimes no, and it's got a weed leaf, yes, sometimes, and then pills. So if you're into that shit, that's an option too. And almost every girl has either sometimes or yes for drinking, for the wine glass, because drinking wine is like a socially normative, especially for women that I've seen. Like, oh, we're just gonna have a glass of wine, me and my girls, we're gonna have some wine. Like, not to generalize, but like, it's like a cliche. I have one glass of wine a night, or like, me and my girlfriends, we have wine. It's like, it's a conformity thing almost. And then either a lot of girls, to be fair, not necessarily the financial types, but the problem is the girls in New York who are artists and shit are also like terminators when it comes to like ambition and all of that kind of shit. And their standards. They need to lower their standards. And so usually it'll say like sometimes under weed. Sometimes they smoke weed. Meaning, I don't know, maybe they have some weed, they smoke once a week, or maybe at the very most, maybe like at night or something while they're like unwinding. But you almost never see a girl who's like yes to smoking weed. I mean, there's definitely some potheads and shit, but they're not that many in Legion on New York dating apps. And then cigarettes, all hot people smoke cigarettes. I don't know why, because they hate themselves. Because it's devastatingly sexy to do it, for them to do it. It's also an appetite suppressant. And I don't know. They're just tainted. They're all just fucked in the head. They've all been really damaged. And so they worship the darkness. That's why they smoke fucking cigarettes. These little pollution chimneys. Weed, there's a stigma against. You know, these, like I said, these girls at most are like somewhat recreational. They're not potheads. like me and RVD. They're not smoking. What did David Lee Roth say? I'm a smoking weed before breakfast kind of guy. That's been my mantra some days. It goes through my head sometimes when I'm making breakfast. I'm a smoke pot before breakfast kind of guy. And I say, well, why not? I don't know. It's not drugs, man. It's not fucking drugs. Keith Richards, I mean, maybe these people aren't the best examples, but he said it doesn't even count. You know, he smokes 2 joints first thing in the morning just to, like, get to 0. That's kind of where, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe those are not the right role models, but that's kind of where I'm at. I have to smoke 2 joints to be able to do anything. That just gets me to, like, not too high that, like, I'm weird. The thing is, I get weird, and I don't want to get weird. I just feel you're just out of step with everybody else's, and especially during daylight hours, it can be, you're just on a different kind of time zone. So, I hope that goes away. I'm ready for, wow. Now, that was some real lightning. I saw that one. That was, like, dynamic. I don't know what the hell, if I'm sick or what, because I do not feel sick really at all. I feel I don't have, like, a sore throat. My nose isn't running. I have, like, a little bit of extra saliva. I still have my sense of smell and my sense of taste. You know, like, I've been sick more or less for 2 days. Sick. Wednesday around this time is when I started to feel this way. And I feel fine, really. I mean, but it's weird. I also feel, like, tired. My body's tired. My muscles are kind of sore. My saliva, like I said, is kind of, like, thick. This morning when I woke up, I had a little bit of, like, mucus, and I went in the bathroom and I blew my nose, and there was, like, yellowish, not to be too detailed about it, but there was, like, yellowish green mucus and, like, some blood in it, which is not that unusual. That doesn't really worry me that much. I mean, not that I have blood in my mucus that often, but, like, there's any number of things that could cause that. You know, that could just be, like, inhaling dust or something. Like, that's not necessarily, there's not been blood in my spit or any, and it was just that one. I had my air conditioner on overnight, so it, you know, it could have been just the air's not good in here. Just the circulation's not great in here. I mean, like I said, I was putting my fucking hands in this laundry water. I should have been smarter. But that wasn't like a mistake I made because I was high. That was just like, you're a dumbass. You try new things. You don't necessarily know how to do it. I should have put 2 and 2 together. It's like, yeah, this is laundry water. This is not sanitary. You need to be extremely careful. I didn't even think about it, you know. I washed my hands even, mostly, when I was doing it, but I should have been smarter about it. So it could just be some kind of weird bacteria thing. I mean, I did get vaccinated, so there is a chance. I mean, maybe I do have COVID. Like, let's not, but I don't know. I was looking today. They said that sinus stuff is not really typically one of the symptoms, right? Of course. And, you know, of course, it's like, it's typically coughing, fever. I don't really even have a fever. I felt a little bit warm at times, but, like, right now I feel pretty much 100%. I mean, I feel like 90% really, or maybe 85. Like, I don't feel great. I wouldn't want to go out. Like, if I had to go to work or something, I could do it. I have done it. I have worked this sick before. I hate to say it, but that's capitalism, right? You work in a restaurant, you can't call off work. I have definitely worked sicker than this by far. But I don't, like I said, I don't even have like a sinus, like, when I swallow, it doesn't really hurt. It hurts like a little, just like a little, like 5%. So I that was the only time I blew my nose the whole day. My everything has been clear since then. So, I was a little worried because typically the reason why I mention it is because typically when you have colored mucus, it indicates like an infection, right? So periodically, because, the last time I got sick was beginning of March 2020, right before the pandemic. So I literally haven't been sick in over a year, and it's felt great, honestly. I've loved it. Getting sick sucks. And it makes you start to question, like, well, how do you get sick? How does one get sick? And you think about when do I get sick typically? And I mean, there are a number of instances over the past week where I could have got sick. I mean, I did go to bars that were full of people without masks on Thursday and Friday. I went to a bunch of different places on Tuesday. I wasn't I was indoors at times for 15 minutes or something, but maybe 30 minutes. But it had to have been the laundry thing. I was doing my laundry and all of a sudden I started to feel sick. So it's like, I gotta believe that it happened from the laundry. And so it could be any kind of bacterial. It could just be some kind of weird virus. So I don't know. I'm not freaking out about it, but it's obviously it's no fun. I mean, I don't have anything that I have to do, so, and it's raining and shit, so it's not necessarily a bad time to just like have to stay home and whatnot. But of course I'm a little bit like, I was reading fucking Reddit forums and shit about people's coronavirus stories. And, a lot of people say that they're really not that sick for about a week and then it gets worse or something. It's weird because, like, I don't even really feel sick at all, to be honest. Like, I feel like a lot of the people in the media or whatever who have talked about coronavirus, they say, for maybe a week or two, like what, Tom Hanks had a little bit of like sniffles and shit. And then he was fine. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like a little achy. I feel tired a little bit. I don't feel like wiped and like, oh my God, I'm delirious and I'm feverish but I feel like a little bit, like 10% sick. So it's like, it's nice that I can just chill, and even this is kind of hard to do, to be honest. Like the last one, I only did an hour and a half, and that's unusual. I can usually do 3 hours or 2 hours at least, and it's no problem. So even this, doing half an hour or something, I was starting to get a little bit tired. So that is unusual. And to be honest, that is not unlike coronavirus. I'm trying to remember exactly what my mom told me, but, she was, like, tired is her initial things. She noticed she was tired. And then it kind of hit her all at once. It hasn't really been like that for me. Like, I've never had this before. Typically what happens when I get sick is, like, you feel the initial thing, and then a couple hours later, you're, like, sick. You got mucus, you're in bed, you need orange juice, all of it. Your mouth is dry, your kind of like stomach's a little, and that hasn't happened. I haven't like gotten really that much worse. It's been kind of like, I just feel like a little bit sick. Like it's almost symptomless. But it's just enough to be like, okay, I think I'm sick, I think I'll be fine in like a day or two, and I'm not even necessarily that worried about it because it's like it's not a bad thing to get a little bit, just to get keep your immune system sharp and whatnot. It's definitely going to change probably my approach to how I do things. I probably won't go to bars full of people for a little while. I mean, I did only get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, so maybe I should think about getting one of the other, like the Pfizer, getting one shot of that or something, because supposedly that ups your defense and whatnot. But I don't know. So far, so good. I'm feeling pretty okay, really. But I do think it's probably a good thing to talk about it, because this can be a way to keep track of whatever it is. I think we want to jump to the conclusion, but it could be a lot of things. If you just look at what's the most likely thing, it's like, well, I was putting my fucking hands in bath water. I mean, maybe there was some kind of... I Googled it. It said Corona can only live on your clothes for 2 days. I mean, I guess I had been on the subway the day... Well, I didn't really wash anything that I was wearing the day previous. I don't know. I'm sure I'll be fine by Monday. That's my... and this is not even really bad. Every time I've gotten worse, I've gotten sick. When I was in my relationship, especially, it was worse. But I don't know. Am I a snowflake? They accuse us of being snowflakes. I was thinking about this today. Like, what? I think I'm like partially a snowflake. I think, like, my mom's side of the family, they are not snowflakes. Their parents, and she didn't really treat us like snowflakes. She kind of had half, like, tough, like, needlessly tough, kind of, like, just like that attitude, like, life sucks, get used to it kind of attitude, parenting. And then she was, like, would give us a birthday card or whatever that was, like, really affectionate or whatever. But we weren't really like snowflakes. There was no sense that we were like special. They weren't overprotective. Well, my dad's side, he wasn't like somebody that just like made us feel like we were special per se. Like my parents never really at this or that, like, oh, my dad thought I was good at golf. He thought I had a nice golf swing. So maybe I was a snowflake in that sense. There were certain things that were like, your parents are proud of you or whatever, invisibly kind of like amazed by you or something. I don't know. Maybe that's overly effusive word. But I don't feel like as much of a snowflake as maybe people that went to some kind of like private art school or something that knew how to like nurture and cultivate their individuality. Oh man, I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about? I have this fucking like set list, right? But I just spent an hour talking kind of about weed stigma, and there's still more I feel like I'm in that. So like here, it's like I'm supposed to talk about Huey Lewis and my history with Huey Lewis, but like I could do an hour about that. And then my second one is, am I a snowflake? It's like, well, you could talk about that for a long time, and it's kind of a completely different subject. What is a snowflake? Whereas I've been discoursing on something I'm very familiar with and have a personal stake in, and I haven't even really scratched the surface of the issue, the weed stigmata, and how there's a sea change that is happening. But I think it's more just in kind of people's just like conservative values, like with themselves. You know, I think people are conservative with how they socialize, what they allow themselves to do, who they allow themselves to do it with, where they allow, and it's like, I don't see abandon, I don't see wildness that often. I see like people pretending to be wild in like just sort of drunken, self-isolated like dance chambers or something. You know, if they go out to a bar and they dance, or they go out with their, but it's like I don't see really like people like letting their guard down or being carefree or like footloose. It's a conservative, meaning people are reserved about who they talk to, how much time. I mean, it's so hard to get anybody to like be your best friend. I don't know. People are trying to like privatize like the empires of their time and their self, and it's all quantified. Likes are money, likes are views, followers, that's all money, potentially. I mean, it is money. So if you can't produce that, you're just kind of a loser. It's a superficial. It puts the super in superficial. Oh my god, they're putting up another fucking building I can see from my window. Holy shit. Another Hudson Yard. Well, there's this one that literally they just put up. Now there's fucking brother or sister building going up just to the left. Right over John Ashbury's place. I see from my... Is it doing the shutter thing that I was doing yesterday? Wow, only an hour and 7 minutes. You know, I don't feel that tired. I could keep going, but I do feel it is a little bit... I'm a little bit more fatigued than I might otherwise be. I mean, I think there's some sense that if you're like really open with the fact that you smoke weed, you're kind of like gross. You're like this gross, like, yeah. That's how I feel, anyway. And I wish the culture's just like hung up. And these are capitalist, competitive, hierarchical values. Being streamlined, being professional, being photogenic, being super skilled communicator when it comes to texting, emails. I mean, it's not personal. There's definitely emails that and I'm not great on social media just in general. DMing, emails, any of it. Texting takes a lot of work. It's not personal. It's just like I just hate. I imagine most of the people with jobs, they spend like their entire lives doing fucking emails. Basically. At least a big part of their day. And that's the case for me, even if I need to write one email. The other day I wrote one email to my... And it literally took me like 2 hours to do, you know. Like, I don't want to live in that fucking world, man. Smoking weed makes it really hard to write emails and texts. Things that are easy when you're sober, kind of. Like, I just get stressed over every little thing. And, I mean, the choose your own adventure of, like, life and writing sentences and what you're going to say just splits into so many more possible. There's so many different tangents and offshoots that you could potentially go down when you're high writing an email that you're like, if I was sober, this shit would never even occur to me, and like that would be perfectly fine. Like, this is not complicated. It's not even that risky. Just, like, do it simple, do it nice, get it over with. And, you know, these people that can write emails that are, like, bullet points, and they literally will just send you, they won't even send a greeting or a thanks or anything. I want to get to that place. They'll literally just send, like, boom, in 3 words or something. Do it, get it. And it's like, my emails are they're like letters. I've got an introduction, and it has to have this, like, hey, hope you're doing well. Just had a quick question, but, you know, thanks again. Hope you're having a great week. It's just, like, absurd. I don't know. I think deproductivizing is a good thing. Like, the productivity is what builds the pollution machine, which eats nature and is going to murder all of us. It's time. Like, the fucking pandemic was like a moment of clarity. It was a wake-up call. It's God's way of saying, hey, you're addicted to capitalism, consuming natural resources, status, chasing, fake competitive culture, building needless wealth, hoarding it, etc., etc., burning natural resources, just like it's like these are addictions, and you need to quit. You need to go cold turkey. No more fossil fuels. No more private jets, for Christ's sake. This drives me up a fucking wall. These people who are, like, always flying everywhere, telling you about the environment, how the environment's dying. It's like, you take airplanes every fucking place. There's nothing worse for the environment than airplanes. I mean, the private jet is like the ultimate status symbol. If you have a private jet, or other than like a yacht, maybe, a super yacht. But the private jet is like, if you've got a private jet, then you're like, you're in the aristocracy, you're a Class A citizen, you're white collar, you're wealthy. You got a fucking private jet. And not only that, but the values of our culture, you made it. You're a success, you're a winner, you deserve it. Glamorous, women love it, like, but there's nothing worse for the environment than having a fucking private jet for one goddamn person to fly around on, and have all these private jets up in the air. Golfers, these golf tournaments, everybody's flying their private jet from tournament to tournament. It's like, you cocksuckers, you're gonna burn in hell forever. I'm glad Payne Stewart fucking died on his private jet. They shouldn't be up there. They should be flying commercial. Should be on Southwest or Spirit Airlines next to Frankly Fabulous in the fucking chairs that are like this. The Sky Bus. The Sky Greyhound. Hey, if Payne Stewart, if you had been riding the fucking Spirit Airlines, you'd still be alive today. You'd be fucking playing the senior PGA Tour. But, I don't know, maybe not. Not on a Boeing 737, necessarily. I'm sorry, is that in bad taste? They're golfers. I hate them. They're the white devil. They're the imperialists. They're the colonialists. They're the European fucking bad guys. That's who they are. Golfers with private jets and their financial industry counterparts who mythologize their own pathetic crimes and money launder, golf washing, fake charity stuff. so they can pat each other. Oh, we're so good. We're giving we're giving back, writing off on our taxes, so we can buy more jet fuel, burn up some of this ozone real fast. We're burning alive. Like, it's now or never. Like, literally. Are we going to go back to contributing to that? And I think weed, to de-productify yourself, or and definitely, certainly to change your values, let's say. Whoa. Sustainable values, long-term values. Something that's actually going to nourish you, something that's actually going to build a community, cause something beautiful to grow, that gives a lot of people's lives purposes. I mean, that should be the goal. If you have something that's giving a lot of people a sense of purpose that they can contribute to, a community, that's the goal. Not, let's make as much fucking money as possible so we can, as individuals, be able to provide for the people who socially are glommed onto us, our families, our kids. I mean, that's not to say that, like, families aren't... It's something I've been thinking about more recently. The value of family, not only the value of family, but just like what the not just family. Family is kind of the most obvious social unit, I suppose. And there can be a lot of different kinds of families. You can have a chosen family, or an artistic family, or a work family. That's terrifying. New York, you have to find a family, kind of. You have to make a family. That's what the Slooge was, kind of. It was a family. In a city where you I don't know, you kind of need a family in a certain way. Everybody needs... I don't know. Maybe they don't, but... you know, I think if weed... I don't think it does make you less productive. I mean, I am definitely more productive. I wouldn't attribute it to weed. But, you know, let's say you take the year 2007 to 2014 and the year 2014 to present. Like, I've definitely put out way, 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 way more stuff over the past 7 years, and I've been high basically the entire time. I mean, I did work before, but I almost never put it out, and I didn't finish things. I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to, like, make anything that, like, I could, like, release, really. I didn't know how to... And it's not that I do now. It's just more like I've figured out how to embrace my process and my individuality as a person and as a writer. I mean, weed... relaxes... I don't think my standards have changed, but, like, you know, Gertrude Stein supposedly smoked weed or whatever, or had hashish or something, right? Alice B. Toklas would make hashish brownies or whatever. So I do think you can see that in the work. it's a little more relaxed. It's not about like punctuation and revision. It's about flow. It's about catharsis, I guess. Rhythm, steady conversation, speaking, oral. I think it's probably been one of the things that's like gotten me to have like a kind of a more of a, I don't know, gutter. Like if you look at pictures of me, right, it's like I almost look almost like what, like John Cusack in Being John Malkovich or something. You know, there's kind of like a Charlie Kaufman character look where they kind of look like middle-aged potheads, where they've got like, you know, their hair's not really like, you know, they got kind of baggy ponytails and scruff, and like they just look like, I don't know, artistes. They're kind of consumed with, they don't, you know, like you sort of have to kind of like try to fit into professional world. Like you have to wear like a button up or khakis, or I mean, I just feel so bad for all these tech guys. They all wear that blue like denim or like Oxford button down. They all wear it. They all look exactly the same. I've got kind of the Ichabod thing going on right now with the my ponytail thing, my dread. Oh God. I need to get my shit together. And I mean that's what this seemed like to me. This fucking thing in the Olympics. They're criminalizing. It's once again they're using it against black people. She smoked weed, so we have to disqualify her. We don't want this black woman to have gold medals. Meanwhile, Michael Phelps, white guy, fucking does Subway ads and shit. He's a poster boy. He's on the Wheaties box. Literally. And this guy, he's a smoke pot before breakfast kind of guy. People worshipped him. He's like one of the greatest Olympians ever. The whole, what Olympics was that, 2012? Or it was just all about this motherfucker. It's all about Michael Phelps. It's just, I can't believe they even do that. I feel like the Olympic Committee would have more goddamn sense than that. Like, I think we've gotten to the point socially that like your average 24-year-old who is social and goes to bars and shit, there's probably a pretty high percentage they might have a trace of THC in their system at any point in time, maybe. Not necessarily that they smoke a lot, but they might smoke at a fucking party or a bar from time to time, or they might hit the bowl at their friend's house or something. Like, I wish that I could experience it from a pure, less stigmatized or like loaded, preconceived idea about what it is. Because, like I said, is it really that different than drinking a cup of coffee or having a quadruple espresso? I can walk in any fucking Starbucks and get a quadruple espresso or a Red Bull or whatever. Maybe not a Red Bull at Starbucks, but you see my point. Weed, it's impossible to find. Most places, even in New York, it's like I have to order from this service. I mean, it's legal now, and it's still not easy to find. Like, you should be able to walk in to any fucking corner store and buy a goddamn joint. Like, it's absurd. I can buy a 6-pack, a 24-pack, I can buy wine. I can buy. And yet, where the fuck am I supposed to get weed? It's like, it's a secret. I mean, the first few weeks I was here, I was just like wandering around like, please, God, somebody sell me weed. It was still illegal. It only got legalized at the beginning of April, I think. Now I'm starting to get the coke smoke weed. Guys in the park. I don't know. Things are changing slowly. Certain things are getting better. Certain things are getting worse. Who knows if there will be enough time to turn it around. At this point, I'm inclined to believe not. The way that people are just like falling back in line after this, like, what's it gonna take? I mean, granted, it will get there. We will, sooner or later, we will get to like a push comes to shove situation. We're basically there with this heat problem because, I mean, if it's not apparent to everybody, I mean, this is what the fucking scientists said. Literally. In the fucking 90s, I had Al Gore's book, The Earth in Balance. And the scientists, all the projections, because it was the 90s, all the projections were for 2020. It was like, by the year 2020, you know, shit will be so fucked up that the polar ice caps will melt. I don't even remember what the prediction was, but like, at that point, it seemed like, oh, it's way in the future. Yeah, we'll never get there. 2020, that doesn't exist. That's the future. That's like the Jetsons or something. We'll never have to deal with this. Forget it. 2020, who cares? Al Gore, he's a fucking joke. He invented the internet, like, sure, Al, get the fuck out of here. And lo and behold, it's 2020, and here we are. It's 100 degrees in June. It's unpleasant. It's 100 what they said it's 117 in Portland. They said it'd be the hottest day ever in Vegas. That's how hot it was. How hot was it? It's so hot. The polar ice caps are melting. It's so hot we're all gonna be burned alive slowly. That's how hot it is. Literally, that's just what's happening. I mean, this is another reason why I'm inclined to believe that we live in hell. It's just like a slow hell. It's a slowly developing. It's like almost like that thing with the frog, right, where they turn the burner on so the water gets gradually hot around you or whatever. That's where we're at. They're slowly turning up the boil. They're going to cook humanity alive. They're going to roast us like fucking rotisserie chickens over the period of the next 30 years. Yeah, so nothing's fucking changing. We got a text. Turn off your air conditioners. We don't want a power failure. It's like, how about turn off Hudson Yard, turn off Times Square, turn off Trump Tower, turn off the empty office buildings, turn off the Empire State Building. If there's nobody in it, they're tremendous wasters of power. And we're here. We're already here. Like, the climate emergency is 24/7, 365. I mean, I know they get it a little bit in other countries. Australia had real bad fires. But, I mean, United States, it's catastrophic already. The hurricanes, Houston, Puerto Rico, fucking New York. Sandy. How many fucking once in 5,000 year weather events have we had in like the last decade? A lot. More than once in 5,000 years. Like, so we're clearly headed downhill like a snowball that's, we're rolling downhill like a snowball that's headed for hell. To quote Merle Haggard, are the good times really over for good? We're rolling downhill like a snowball that's headed for hell. And people are just going right back to their dumbass, competitive, stupid social performance lives. There's no righteousness happening. There's people sharing Instagram moments about mutual aid and shit. Meanwhile, the power of the phone is using the servers, the Wi-Fi. We're fucked. We're fucked. Nobody can stop this thing. It's been my goal to just like dig my heels in, smoke tons of weed, not be unproductive, but be productive with my own sort of squiggly drawings, my squiggly doodles of consciousness and life. Speaking of which, watch, we got a new Scenes from a Life episode premiering July 4th. Well, July 3rd, I think, 11 p.m. We've got a solid block of television coming for you, directly competing with SNL, as I like to do. We've got a solid 3 hours or something coming to you. I think tonight we've got something on. Tomorrow night we've got it's probably the first like real new episode of Scenes from Life, at least in 6 months, but kind of like in 3 years. Kind of like since 2018. We've been on a 3-year hiatus, which is not that long, but my pamphlets, if you want to find out what was happening in the meantime, get out my entire library of pamphlets. Read my blog, Happiness Blackouts. Fill you in on the autobiographical data of the in-between times. It was a dark time, the late 2010s, under fake emperor, fucktard, fuckface. So yeah, watch the new Scenes from a Life. Brooklyn Day and New York Walks. It's kind of it's a familiar, it revisits a lot of classic Scenes from Life sequences. It has resonances with some of the earliest episodes. Prospect Park, Brooklyn Public Library, the bridge, Manhattan Bridge. But I don't know. I'm getting more stoked to film Manhattan. I actually haven't really. I was always kind of like, it's just different when you live here. You get a different sense of the value of what you're filming. Like now, I can sort of go out and find things organically. All of a sudden, I'll just be in some neighborhood. Oh, okay, I'll film this. Before it was like you come into Manhattan, you go to this place you're going to go to, and then you get back on the train, you leave. There's not really like the kind of you're abandoned, you're on furlough in this location, and you can just kind of really inhabit it. So I'm really looking forward to that. Filming Manhattan, that's going to be my goal. And who knows? Who knows where we'll be at the end of 2022? The future could be anything. I'm trying to build what I can here. We'll see. We're still kind of cut off in a weird way from the locality. You're still not really able to socialize indoors. At least I'm not doing that with friends. I haven't really reconnected with friends that much. Events, right, are not really happening indoors. That's still kind of like they're getting back to it. Like I just got an email today from my employer. They're planning to do in person in the fall, so We'll see. I don't know if I actually believe that, frankly. Now that I sort of, I mean, I don't think that I've got coronavirus per se, but this has definitely put me back on my guard. And like that post that my friend had on Instagram about how him and his partner both had fucking vaccines, and they both got coronavirus. So like, I don't necessarily. Everybody is really like go, and especially in New York, right? They're gonna have this big concert with Springsteen and Paul Simon reopen, and New York is back, and it's like, I'm not sure. I don't know. It especially feels kind of fucked up that they're doing that, because what if I'm sick? Or, you know, people may still be sick. People are still dying. And yet, oh, we're reopening. Everything's great. Everything's back to normal. Here's Springsteen. Here's the boss. Here's fucking Paul Simon Central Park. It's iconic. It's like, I don't know. We're not really sure about this variant. And you can't be. You should still. Well, that's what's frustrating, is what I'm saying, I guess, because I feel great about what I'm accomplishing here, but I also feel weirdly like lonely, and I don't feel like I'm pulled in by the community here. Like I mean, I'd like to be friends with all the people I know and actually be friends with them and hang out and do things and talk and make movies, and right now it just feels like everybody's very distant. Everybody's, and I'm not sure, okay, that could just be me and like I'm sort of out of the loop, but it's also just like, I think, I don't know, we're still in pandemic, and we could be kind of in this situation for a little while where, you know, there's this kind of like halfway, we're kind of stuck halfway. We can't be normal per se, but we're not just at home. I kind of like being at home. Like, God, I liked the Zoom thing, to be honest. It feels kind of cool. Will people ever be able to recover from this? It feels kind of cool. Not that it isn't great. Like, I love going out into the world and doing shit too, right? Like, I love going to in-person readings. I love, you know, going to the park, meeting friends, making shit with other people. But it also feels great that all of the events and all of the options from like the whole world are available, and you can jump on them from like the comfort of you don't even have to go anywhere. Literally, I can watch some play they're doing in England. I can do a writing group in LA. I mean, one person I'm publishing is from South Africa. They live in like Indonesia or something. Like, I went to that Beyond Baroque video thing that was out of LA. As soon as this shit goes back to in person, you're going to lose all of that. And it's kind of sad. I don't know. I mean, I guess it has to go back. You got to go back to school. But maybe I'm sure they will probably maintain some kind of streaming component for certain things. Like the reading I went to in Bryant Park, they were streaming it simultaneously, which I think is good. I think that's smart. I don't think it's going to cut into your audience. I don't think people are going to stay home because it's streaming. Like, people like to go out to stuff, but I think having both options extends your reach and your power, both as a viewer and as a administrator and somebody who puts shows on. Like, people are still going to want to go to the in-person thing. We've seen that. Like, the pandemic has definitely proved that. Like, people like to go out. They like to be around other people. They like going to shows. They will go to shows. But it's also nice to be able to see shit from everywhere. And it's kind of inclusive and less ableist, I would say. Like, and it's international. It brings other cultures into your house. It brings other cultures as far as like city. You know, I'm at this event with all these LA poets. I'm at this event with all these San Francisco poets. I'm at a regional poetics thing. So I'm seeing that milieu. I'm seeing that kind of background too, not just some poets visiting in New York and so I see them here or something. You're seeing them more kind of on their own terms. And I don't know. I do think maybe that it kind of opens. It would be nice to have like a hybrid, let's say, to use a modern word for it. To be able to stream and also to do in person. That's what I would do. I mean, I haven't really been doing a lot of other than this is what I do streaming wise, you know. But if I could do this in person, if anybody gave a shit, I'm going to try to, like I said, I'm going to try to do a tour. I should probably hype this. So watch my new episode of Scenes from a Life premiering tomorrow night on YouTube. It'll be on Free Speech Television Monday, July 11th, 11:30 p.m. Going to be replaying my KGB reading in honor of 4th of July. Frankly Fabulous live. Declaration of Interdependence, 4th of July 2021, KGB, live on Brooklyn Free Speech Television. And then I want to do a tour of New York City. And also, I'm probably going to try to go to Philadelphia this summer, maybe after the Poetry Festival. Do a quick little thing in Philadelphia. I'd like to jump around, do shows. Maybe I could do one in Providence or something, or Boston, go back up there. I'd like to maybe go to Maine, who knows. D.C. Baltimore, I've never been there. But definitely Philadelphia. But I'm kind of, I don't know. I think it's a good idea to do like the local. There's still shit in New York I'm discovering. Like this Brownstone Poets, that's a whole thing. Or I was going to go to this reading series at Westbeth yesterday. It was like, I forget what it was called, but it was like in the courtyard at Westbeth. And it's like these poets I'd never met or heard of. And it's like, this is cool. This is in New York. Like, yeah, let's go. Let's check it out. Let's see what they're up to. You know, that's kind of a way of touring, just getting in front of different audiences that may or may not, probably not know who you are. So I'm going to do a New York tour. I'm going to do Central Park, Summer Stage. Maybe I'll do a Morningside Heights show. Where I just do ambient rantings, ambient social criticism, live in-person Andy Rooney-ish. Young Curmudgeon. It's my MC name. I'll do Bleecker Park, Wash Square, Tompkins. I'll do Tompkins. Zuccotti, like I said. Maybe I'll do Bowling Green. That'd be good. Is there a park in Tribeca anywhere I could do? Just anywhere. You could do anywhere. Just set up a fucking PA anywhere and do a show. Like, people can watch. They don't have to watch. And then, of course, Brooklyn, Prospect Park, Fort Greene Park, Gowanus, Sunset Park, maybe, McCarran, McGolrick, Queens, do Staten Island Ferry, maybe. Of course, Governor's Island. So I need to plan this tour. I need to get this PA. I want the Governor's Island thing to either be a launch. Maybe that can be the launch. Maybe my tour will be August. I'll do an August tour of New York. So maybe the Governor's Island thing will be like the launch date. That's kind of what my friends did with their Kapuka, Vera, and Linus. You know, they did show Union Square, show at Washington Square, show at Coney Island. It's a cool idea. Because it is a tour. I mean, what the purpose of going on tour is what? To get in front of different people, right? And also to go to different towns, get into different communities, spread the word. I want to do that, of course. I'd love to tour America. But I also think, I don't know, there's there's 8 million people in New York. Like, let's get out in front of different, especially with the public performance that's happening, the street performance. It's like there's audience everywhere. You don't have to book a show. You don't have to wait for some club to verify you, you know. So look for the Frankly Fabulous Summer 2021 tour. All right, I might as well do it with shit. 15 more minutes, 14 more minutes. Should I do 2 hours? I feel like I should do 2 hours. I'm feeling better now. I feel good. God damn, was there anything else? Yeah, I got into that already. These are some old notes. I guess I could talk about what I've been watching on TV. Well, I did kind of mention it a little bit. I don't know. I do things my way, and I feel like I just have to get it out in front of people. I could probably book, if I emailed KGB, would they give me a residency? It's possible. I see they're kind of like, but at this point, I also like the outdoors just as far as like a sanitation kind of thing. This whole whatever I've got going on has made me a little bit gun shy about getting, I don't know. I suppose that's dumb. I shouldn't feel that bad about it because I really think it's obvious that I probably got whatever I've got going on because of the laundry shit I was doing. It's not because of coronavirus, probably. I mean, I probably should just go get a test. In New York, it's not really that hard. It's pretty easy, but I don't know. I also feel, do I really want to know? I feel like if I learned that I had coronavirus, I'd like get freaked out or something. I'd start to get worried every second. There's people over on the roof over there I was looking at. Trying to see who they are. Here, let me shoot the angle around so you can see. It's kind of exciting to see outside. It's kind of a cool shot. See? Isn't that nice? Pretty cool, right? $1 Million Man. I don't know. I don't know. We're not sure exactly what the fuck the next catastrophe is going to be, but I find it hard to believe that things are just going to kind of like go back. I mean, don't get me wrong, the pandemic and all of that was sort of like unprecedentedly disruptive. You want to talk about disruption? I mean, it just, everything stopped cold. I don't think anything has ever happened. Like literally the whole fucking human race, the whole world over, basically. I mean, I'm sure some places it didn't really stop, but the unifying moment of the decision and the internet enabling that possibility where there's just instant communication from anywhere on the globe basically to anywhere else, like it's just changing what's possible. It's changing what we can see of the frame through which we see our life, the information we can access, which it's like these conditions, there's just so many different changes happening so fast that like it'll be a wonder if we don't get obliterated just physically by the new circumstances, really, because it's a severe, immediate, new set of criteria that's around us, and potential and circumstances and no, wait, does this person have a fucking golf club? Enough with the golf already. It's my pet peeve. It's just too hot. It's too goddamn hot. There's going to be power failures. The whole West is going to be on fire. There's no water. There's droughts. We're making our planet uninhabitable very quickly. It's obvious. People are talking about it constantly, and nothing is changing. Nothing is being done. The corporations, I mean, you couldn't. Rumsfeld just died. There's nothing you could do to punish the guy enough for what he did. Think about the people this fucking guy killed. Think about how many people, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians died because of this war. Like, not that it would have been great if Saddam Hussein would have stayed, but like, Jesus Christ. Was it better that happened? I don't know. Like, the devastation that's happened to that fucking country over the last 20 years. This was the other thing, is like Bagram Air Base, the United States just left today. So it's sort of more or less the end of the Afghan war. Like, it's the last, it marks more or less the end of combat operations there. 20 fucking years. The longest war by far. It's amazing. I think it does say something about consciousness, the way that time is kind of slippery now, but also just like the sleight of hand of that. The sleight of hand of not only time, but how they use the media to get us to think about that and to think about just what they want us to think about. And this war has gone on for 20 years, and yet it's just been kind of like in the background in a weird way. It's not even really referenced that often. You don't see it that often. You see it in movies kind of sometimes. 20 fucking years. Longest war in U.S. history. Like, it's just been going on. They've been making money off it. It's been this private little kind of hidden thing, more or less. There's some idea that there was no war. My boss, I remember him saying about something about there needed to be a war because our generation was like to not substantial enough. A war provided levity. It's like there were wars. There was 2 fucking wars. There was Iraq and Iran, in fucking Afghanistan. It's like that literally happened September 11th. I was 16. So I was right. Think about this. World War II, they drafted you against your will. And like they're going to force you into the boat at D-Day against your will. You don't volunteer. They pick you randomly. You have to go. If they say, hey, you're getting in this boat and you're going to storm this beach, you have to fucking do it. These guys, World War II, they kind of get away with it, right? Because it was a war where we were righteous and we were fighting evil and shit. But think about Vietnam. I mean, they did get rid of the draft, but like at the beginning of that war, they would force you to go to fight Vietnam. That is grim. That's where we were at not that long ago. You didn't have a fucking choice, whether you wanted to or not. Like, Afghanistan and Iraq weren't necessarily the same. There was no draft, but college was prohibitively expensive. That's probably one reason why, because they didn't want people to have options. If college was cheap, then why the fuck would you join the military? A lot of people joined the military just so they could pay for school. I mean, a lot of people I know did. And a lot of people didn't fucking survive. Or if they did survive, they were either severely damaged physically or mentally. Or spiritually, psychologically. And that damage is all around us. So there were wars. There were massive wars. I mean, Afghanistan is the longest war in fucking U.S. history. Iraq, trillions of dollars. That one went on forever too. And was it successful? I mean, it was successful in that, like, it was a constant stream of money for arms dealers and war profiteers, of which there are many in this country. And it created an entire, generation of warriors and severely fucked up people, opioid addicts. A lot of those people come home. What choice did they have but to, if they smoked weed? This is another thing about weed culture. Instead of prescribing opioids, which are incredibly lethal, as we see, and addictive as hell, and not good for you at all, if they got these people smoking weed, they're certainly not going to OD. You can smoke weed all day, every fucking day. You're not going to OD on shit. And it's probably more therapeutic. It's just as effective a way to manage pain, manage a lot of this stuff, PTSD. So there were wars. This is what I'm saying, is like this war has been going on in the background for 20 years. And it's like, oh, we didn't have a war because there was no draft. There was no, it wasn't a world war. Wasn't, 3 million fucking soldiers at Leningrad or whatever the fuck. Like Stalingrad. But it's like, that's what they wanted you to think. They wanted you to think, oh, this is no big deal. This is not really, not that many troops are dying. Like, how many troops died in Iraq? A few thousand or something. No big deal. It's not like World War II where hundreds of thousands of fucking people died. So we're dissociated. We're kept in the dark. That's Rumsfeld, this fucking piece of shit who just died. He's no better than Andrew Jackson. He's just like him. They're the same fucking, they're the same people. They're cut from the same cloth. Trump wasn't that competent. Rumsfeld, Cheney, that whole team. Bush, Wolfowitz, Condoleezza, that was like professional people who'd been doing it their whole life. They were well organized. They were deft. They knew exactly how to like pull the fucking wool over people's eyes and how to. They were Orwellian. Mission accomplished and all their bullshit about freedom. We need to bring freedom to these people. It's like, that is Orwellian. Bush, that was Orwellian and horrible. people kind of like sugarcoat it or act like it was some innocuous thing, but it was a terrible, terrible era. And Rumsfeld, like, these guys were professionals. They had been in the fucking, I don't know if he was in the CIA or what, but like he'd been in the Pentagon and shit his whole goddamn life, basically. They knew what they were doing. It was a strategic job. And they, you know, he wanted to go on Iraq before. They were going to go into Iraq one way or another. 9/11 just was their, clearly it was their false flag operation. But it all worked. You know, it all worked. People still think they weren't that harmful. Those guys certainly didn't get any kind of punishment. Like George W. Bush, no one's going to put him on trial. Cheney's still alive. How fucking insane is that? Dick Cheney hasn't had a heart in, literally, in what, like 20 fucking years? He's had like an electronic heart and he's still alive. That is fucked up. No one's going to put him in jail. Like, now there's a little bit of like, these wars were illegal, but at the time, they just rolled through with it. They got reelected and shit. You know, those guys are as bad as Custer. They're the same. Priggish, fucking serial killer white people. Nazis. So fuck him, rotten hell, Donald Rumsfeld, you cocksucker. I wish you could die again. We're smoking pot on your grave, motherfucker. Playing hippie, reading our hippie poetry as an antidote to your death merchandising. Death dealer. Well, the joke's on you now, Donnie. The joke's on you, fuckface. Karma's a bitch, isn't it? There just needs, you know, the positivity, there just needs to be more naysaying, more criticism. Our society is horrible. Like, being positive and being go, 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 hustle, energetic, you're complicit. You're building it. And people want, you know, we have to. And if you play ball, you get rewarded. You get promoted. You get position. You get money. I'd rather not contribute. I do everything I can to broadcast the antithesis, to work against it, whether it's my shit heel lo-fi aesthetic, anti-corporate, anti-commercial, anti-image, anti-Photoshop, anti-Vogue magazine, anti-Ed Razek, anti-videography aesthetic, anti-eugenic Nazi photogenic bullshit. Eugenic and photogenic. They have the same, what is that, a phenome or something? Phoneme? Pheromone? So that's 2 hours. I'm feeling a lot better, actually. Probably because I'm not as high as I was. The weed probably, I don't know. You call in, you tell me what you think. What should we do? What's the future of? I think everybody should smoke. I think it should be mandatory that everybody smoke at least like once a month. I think everybody should have to smoke. There should be government enforced weed gas mask. They put you in a gas chamber and they just blow shitloads of bong smoke. You know, they gas you with bong smoke, basically. So you get incredibly high. And you have to, and it just forces you to see things in a different way. I think that would be useful. And I think it would save humanity. Get Bolsonaro. Can we blow some fucking smoke in Bolsonaro's face so this guy will chill the fuck out? Like, Jesus Christ. Somebody, like, put an edible in his food or something. Like, he'll start to appreciate plants and shit, maybe. Or animals, or... Alright. Save the rainforest. Talk to strangers. Go out of your... Be reckless. Be careless. Elevate other people socially. If you have social capital, you know, just like help other people feel good. Everybody, let's just boost each other's morale. If you see finance people, beat them up. This is something I was thinking about. Maybe I should just get in fights with finance people. Like, okay, so I was thinking about this guy, you know, right? I go to this Fiddlesticks place. That's probably where I got coronavirus. Not that I have coronavirus. I'm just kidding. The guy told me I look like a local. He meant I don't look like one of them. I don't look like a gentrifying finance piece of shit. I look like some mongrel homeless person or something. So I thought, I go out to all these bars. I hate these people. They're evil. They're murdering the planet. Well, I was thinking about Harmy Korine. He had this thing where he just started fights with people, right? Because he wanted people to beat him up. It was like kind of a performance art, and he filmed it. Well, I thought, well, why don't I just try to beat up finance people? Like, they deserve it. Somebody's got to. Somebody's got to fight back. Like, when is this? How? How is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? If it's not going to happen internally, I mean, granted, there's incredibly militarized police forces all over in every city of the country. So any kind of citizen uprising, they really could, like, squash it out if they wanted to. I mean, thank God Trump's no longer in control, because he definitely wanted to. But internally, as an American, or like I said, these things have been happening our whole lives. There's been some resistance, but not really. American has just kind of steamrolled through as imperialist, capitalist, oppressor number one, offender number one. The people here, they're ironic, they're apathetic, they're self-involved. Everybody has their soapbox, and they're kind of like decrying their own personal message about how America sucks, but they're still making money off the system. They're still getting jobs, getting status, traveling, going on tour, like I said, flying, getting their ego stroked, getting position within the system, which is bad. So they're hypocrites. They're complicite. Who's not complicite? Are you? Do you try to not be complicite? Is that something you think about? Because it is. The pandemic seemed like it was maybe going to be a point of divergence where there might be some kind of actual change. But like Hannah Black was saying, I mean, it's like 1968. It's just something they'll talk about for the rest of their lives. It was one moment. It was 1 month, May 1968, and it's over. And all they did was talk about it for the rest of their fucking lives. Is that what 2020 was? Possibly. The George Floyd protests and the uprising. Was that May 1968? And that was it? That one little period when it seemed like the revolution would happen? And we're just going to spend the rest of our lives talking about it? We'll find out, I guess. I mean, I wasn't really there, to be honest. I was inside the whole time because of the circumstances of where I was in Columbus and with coronavirus and with Trump and with, I mean, I didn't have a car. I was barely leaving the house at that point. You know, it was still unknown how transmissible the disease was, or if out, you know, it was not known at that point that outdoors there was less transmission. That's how early on it was, the scientific evidence. So it was like, I didn't go to any, I mean, I did my own things from my place, but like, I didn't physically go to any protest because I couldn't risk that, you know. So I didn't really see it other than on TV and shit. I wasn't in New York at City Hall at Abolition, you know, headquarters and shit like that. I mean, in a certain way, like Occupy Wall Street, that was my May 1968. But point being that the change that seemed possible in the way that, I mean, especially this city was transformed by the pandemic and by the protests, specifically in that moment. All these businesses are shuttered. There's graffiti everywhere. You know, 40,000 people died suddenly. Like, right now, things are quickly being, the pieces are being picked up. Things are being put back together quickly. It's almost that the traces of that moment are almost gone totally. You barely even see graffiti, really. I mean, coming to New York last September and shit, it's like, wow, there's graffiti everywhere. Like, this place is wild. It's like, now it more or less feels kind of like it did before the pandemic. It's almost back to normal. I'd say it's like 80-90% normal, really. And that sucks. Like, we're just going to keep going down this path where New York is going to become, and all of the cities are just going to become, it's just going to accelerate, that we're just going to sell them to tech and people with bad ideas and shoddy short-term thinking, and kick out all of anyone who's genuine and anyone who's creative and interesting and has human scale values. I don't know. I think something else is going to happen. The point is, we can't go on. Like, if a worse thing doesn't come in, like a worse, it just seemed like now was the time it was all gonna happen in a way. I don't know. Well, particularly with like the fucking astrology, and maybe that's just because I bought into the astrology bullshit. But there was some sense that like things were supposed to be kind of chaotic through like 2024 or something. Which, I don't know. At this point, it seems like looking ahead, the years 2022, 2023, 2024, things are probably going to get back on track and sort of more or less pick up where they left off. There's certainly like changes here and there in people's ideology based on what's happened. I mean, there's 6 fucking conservatives on the Supreme Court because of Trump. That's outrageous. Like 6-3, that ain't right. Like, they think because the media is left-wing bias and we have to worry about trans shit all the time, well, that's fair. You know, it's like, well, we're in their face all the time. You know, it's like, fucking 6 Supreme Court justices, like, that shit actually is going to affect our lives. What the media does is like, it's just it exists on a surface level. It's not policy. Like whether or not you can have fucking an abortion or something. They act like, point being, they act like the media is like this powerful thing that is unfairly not representing them. It's in the name and in the guise of all representing all these other people, all these hitherto for unrepresented. That creates the grievance in the white people. Like, oh man, they're taking over our society. We need to, entrench ourselves politically. We have the right. This was, I saw this guy on fucking one of these hillbilly channels talking about, it's just amazing how they use the language of you can't let he said it was Orwellian, the way that Facebook was trying to police your content. They're trying to police what you can say and what you can't say. It's Orwellian, the way that these... And it's like... They're not like, you can't just say shit that's made up. Like, that's not... They're not censoring you. Like, what you are sharing is dangerous. It's not like when fucking Allen Ginsberg got censored or something, or James Joyce. It's not like... It's not censorship. It's like you are not playing by the rules. You are doing something that is a lie. That's why they're taking it down. Not because it's just more false equivalence bullshit. It's how they achieve everything. I don't know. Hopefully those people start smoking weed as soon as possible and it changes their small-minded points of view. We'll see, I guess. It's frankly fabulous time. I'll keep you posted on my progress. Watch the premiere. I mean, it's 4th of July. Who gives a shit? Fuck this country. Happy just happy weekend to all the non-oppressors, all the underdogs, all the underclass, the poor people, the service workers, the retail workers, the manual laborers, the potheads, the dropouts, the poets, the open micers, the painters, the ziners, the zinesters, the people who write comics, the bloggers, the people on Twitter, the Twitterers. Fuck Instagram and fuck all of those people and fuck your Instagram account and fuck your followers and fuck Facebook. But here's to the creatives, the real creatives, the people who handprint their own zines and take them to the comic book store, the people booking gigs that nobody is at, the people playing shows in their basements, the people on Bandcamp, people putting out tapes, CDRs, people going on tour in vans, people going on tour in Europe, people writing their own songs, people writing their own lyrics, people doing karaoke, community newsletters, anybody who publishes a newsletter, anybody sending letters by mail, handwriting letters. God bless you all. Anybody making movies with their friends. TikTok's cool. I approve of TikTok. For now. Community theater. Shout out to all the community theater people. Hopefully you're writing your own plays. Dancers. People dancing in public. Shout out to you guys. People on dance floors everywhere. Go for it. Just go for it. Just get this party fucking lit as hell. bartenders, roadies, bar backs, bus boys, servers. Fuck the managers. They're predators. They're no damn good. Who else? Panhandlers. Street people everywhere. People who live outside. Urban campers. Everybody in Washington Square Park. That guy who plays cello in the West Village, I think on West 4th Street. Shout out to you. Shout out to the MTA workers. Shout out to the essential workers. Shout out to the baggers at the grocery store. Shout out to the bodega guys, the sandwich makers. Train conductors, truck drivers, I guess, to some degree. Taking what they're given because I'm working for a living. Someday I'll talk about Huey Lewis. Someday I got to do a whole in-depth episode about my personal history with Huey Lewis in the news, because I have seen Huey Lewis live 5 times, and I haven't even seen him since 2010. That was all in like the early 2000s. So I'm a little bit of a fan, you might say. So at some point I'll go into a personal history of Huey Lewis in the news. But that was my kind of marijuana cast. I just needed to put out some marijuana ganda, some propawana. For all my pothead shorties out there. I know there's legions of potheads out there. So we need to organize. We need solidarity. We need petitions. And just like everybody needs to be smoking weed. I love it when I see, shout out to everybody smoking not Juuls. I'm not really into the Juul, but like people who are hitting like the weed on like some kind of vape. Good for you. I'm not into vaping, but if it's weed, I approve. All right, I'm going to get something to eat. Happy dinner. Watch Scenes from a Life. Tell your friends. Share. Like. Retweet. We're going to just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. Nothing's going to stop it. We're legalizing it. We're mainstreaming it. Pretty soon it's going to be so normalized. It's just like everybody's going to be baked everywhere. It's just going to be a big hot box. I mean, we're already hot boxing the ozone with smog. Let's hot box it with marijuana smoke. What do you say, everybody? That's my it's my 2 cents. This is Frankly Fabulous signing off. Good day.